Also, I would love if you could like this video, subscribe, leave me a comment down below, share it or something, because I am trying to grow this channel a little bit. Thanks. Hi, welcome back to Isabel's Digest. My name is Isabel, and today we're going to be digesting a book that I absolutely love, and I'm a little bit late because I did read it in June, but I just wanted to take some time to think about it, because otherwise I would have cried here, I would have laughed here, and I would have probably made a 1-hour video. So this was for the best. Of course, I'm talking about One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. A marvelous and strong 5 out of 5 star book. One Last Stop is a novel released in June 2021. And before that, the whole reading community was shaking with excitement. You might know the author, Casey McQuiston, as the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, a book that I haven't read yet, but that is very popular everywhere in Bookstagram and Booktube. I cannot tell you if it's good or bad or better than One Last Stop because I haven't read that. But if you had read that, I'm pretty sure One Last Stop is not gonna disappoint you though. One Last Stop follows August as she moves to New York City. She wants to get lost in the anonymous streets, and she is the kind of person that is very guarded and she doesn't set roots anywhere. She is a minimalist. She has all her things in boxes. She doesn't take souvenirs with her, emotional mementos, anything like that. She is a very on-the-go person. However, as August befriends a group of people that she lives with and that she works with, she starts to feel included in a community, and she starts to feel in sync with the city and with the people that she lives with. She gets a job at a local pancake house. She lives in an apartment filled with young people who are also trying to make the best out of their situation, to have their own baggage, her own family histories, and who just want to live out their sexuality, their personality, and who they really are. As she does all of this and tries to figure out how to get to places in the New York City metro, she meets someone there. There in the subway, we have a meet cute. There she meets Jane, and they make the best meet cute that I've ever read, probably, and they become friends. She awakes something in August that she thought that she could have never felt before, and fate brings them together as August always finds her every time she sets foot on the Q train. Okay, so in typical romance fashion, the main couple are characters that we spend the majority of our time with. I mean, especially August, because she's kind of like the protagonist of both of them. We follow August in this journey, but we spend a lot of time with Jane as well. However, something that I love One Last Stop, and that it makes it a 5-star read to me instead of just a regular romance novel that I would often just give it a 3 or a 4, is that every character that are secondary, that are friends with August, that work with her, are real people, and they are important. They have their own story, their personalities, and you like them as much as you like the main ones. You want them to succeed in life, you care for them, and you genuinely are interested when August has conversations with them, when she has moments with them away from the romance, which is something that is very well balanced. More than being a romance novel between two women, it is a story about a woman coming out of her shell, a coming of age as a young adult, experiencing friendship and new opportunities, and forming part of a community of people. This is a story about young people in New York, their friendship and their bonds, of how they work together and how they are there for each other. The characters in One Last Stop never feel like a buffer. They never feel like a filler or something like that. They always feel like important. Each one of them could be the protagonist at some point, because each one of them feel like actual characters that are well thought and round, instead of just fulfilling the role of the friend. So our protagonist is not alone all the time, so she looks human. They're not there to make August looks human, but they're there living their own lives and giving support as friends, but also having so much potential. I like to think about it as a TV show, and how TV shows with ensemble of characters are more popular nowadays. We have TV shows or ensembles of characters like Friends and New Girl, when you don't have a set protagonist, but the protagonist of the show is the friendship and the bonds among them. That's how I feel One Last Stop works like. And that is something that I genuinely enjoy as a consumer. Because sometimes just being with one character and only having one character that feels like a human, it's kind of exhausting. Sometimes you want to be interested in someone else a little bit, and to have someone that conveys what humans are like and friends, because we don't think of our own friends as secondary characters in our own lives. So it's a really great experience if you enjoy that. Like, I think that to summarize what I think of the characters in One Last Stop without going too much about it, is that they really, Casey McQuiston makes the characters be the focus too of the story. So this is a story beyond the romance. It's a story about friendship and how friendship comes in many forms, and how love really comes in many forms. Love is not only romantic, it's love as a friend and as support. And really, that made me forget that I was reading. They felt so real that sometimes I will be reading for a long time and I will forget that I was reading. Moreover, One Last Stop's how can I say this? Okay, One Last Stop exists in a bubble that can only happen in New York City. And I know it sounds insane, just hear me out. I think there are novels that can only work in a certain environment, and sometimes that looks like a certain city or a certain country or a certain age or a certain moment in time. And One Last Stop, I feel, can only work in New York City as it is. And I am so sorry, because I had planned on having my New York City mug and not the LA one. But when I was making my tea, I kind of drifted away and I forgot. So let's just pretend that I'm drinking from my New York City mug that you have seen in this channel many times, because it's one of my favorites. Moving on, I don't think that if a story like One Last Stop can only work in New York City, in my perspective, that talks badly of the story or the author or any of like that. I feel like due to the magical element, and yes, let's leave it as magical element because I don't want to spoil anything, that makes the story a really original and unique one, that can only happen in New York City. Like, I feel like New York City, and when I think about other times I went there, is this place where I can totally see these things happening and being magical. Cities like New York really attract a lot of outlaws and lonely people and people that want to get lost like August, but also attracts very unique and extraordinary people that want to be part of something. And all of these people coming together in one place and One Last Stop, it's something that I think that could only happen in cities like that. So New York City as an inclusion in the novel almost feels like another character. The city of New York feels like a character in the story because of how it allows it all to happen. And I know that it's kind of like a taste. Like, some people like stories that really happen in Paris, and they read books that are set in Paris. And there are people that love reading stories set in England. I love that too. And there are some people that love stories set in New York. This is a New York story, and if you are like that, you might want to check that out. Which takes me to what I absolutely love in this novel and why this is a 5-star read for me. One Last Stop is a queer romance story between two women in the city of New York with some magical elements. Nevertheless, what I love most about this novel is the unexpected, because when I read it, I just saw the cover everywhere and I saw that everyone was waiting for it. I didn't even know it was related to Red, White, and Royal Blue, that it was a book that I've seen everywhere until this day. And I just went in because I thought, oh, I like romance stories that start in a subway. I love that type of thing. And it's in New York, and I love stories set in New York. So I go in and I am super surprised of everything. I wasn't expecting anything. That's why I'm being very careful with this review, because I don't want to spoil something to you, because I went in blind and I loved it. So what I love the most is that, yes, it is a queer romance, but it's also a story about friendship, and it's a story about found family. That is a trope that I love, but I feel like not every story does it right. For a found family trope to work, you need to spend time with it. That's the thing. And if you already have this romance arc and plot, to bring in found family is difficult if you don't like to spend too much time away from the romance. If you don't have these really strong and round characters to make the reader pay interest in them, to make the reader want to explore this found family, this friend community. But One Last Stop is amazing in that way. It gives you the found family every 20 something once, because you're away from home, you're starting to be an adult, you are in that in between period where maybe you're out of school now and you don't know what you're gonna do afterwards. And all my life I've dreamt about having this like group of friends that become my family, because I grew up with shows like Friends. So that's a trope that I found very comforting and wholesome. And this special one is that not every friend group looks the same, and not every person in the friend group is a copy of August. That you would obviously assume that they're gonna get well along and that it's easy to find this group of friends. It is kind of like that she stumbles upon them, but she also has a lot of moments that you see, okay, that's why they're starting to be friends. They have this moment, they have these things in common, or they help each other with something, and they become this support system that is precious to read. I would read One Last Stop even if it was without the romance, even though I love the romance, you know? It's brilliantly put. It's a brilliant explanation of how to do the found family trope right. And like, if I was talking to someone about this book that they have already read it, so I'm not going to spoil anything to them, I would spend the most time talking about how this is a story about friendship. If you read it and maybe you're not into romance, think of it as a story about friendship and the power of love, and it might help you go through it if you're not a fan of romance at all, which I find it difficult to believe, because who doesn't like romance? Something else I love is how with the character of Jane, we get to explore queer identity and the struggles that come with it, because of course in 2021, we're all about acceptance and being out and being proud of who you are. But Jane is really, because of the magical elements, we get to see how it was very difficult for her come to terms with her real self, and how she had to take this decision of leaving her family because she was scared of what they were going to think about her. And she is always like homesick and away from opening her heart to someone because she's afraid they're gonna reject her, or they are going to not love her, because she is afraid that her own family won't love her if she comes out as a lesbian woman. And Jane is this amazing and strong character, but as we get to know her, we see this vulnerable, very sweet side of her that is very lost and broken. And that also August, who's also a very sad and broken person, but now has this support system around her, welcome her. And this found family the found family doesn't only work for August, it works for Jane as well, until the end when Jane needs to decide if she's gonna reunite with her family or stay with August, which is, again, they're very heavy topics. However, the way that the novel works is that they come to you very well explained, very emotional, very sympathetic, and there's just something that I completely love. And beyond Jane and August, we have other queer characters that really redefine queer identity. None of them act the same way. None of them are the same. They don't follow a stereotype. They are just people, and people are as different as they can be because we are all unique. So we see that very well in this novel. One Last Stop is this celebration of love and friendship and identity that I cannot recommend to you enough. Just go read it already. What are you still doing here? Now, because we are super objective in this channel, I need to talk about what I wish it was done better. And not because it's a 5-star book, it means that I didn't want certain things to happen. And I must say that because of this, I was thinking of giving a 4.5 at the beginning, but then I was like, no, this is a 5, even though it didn't fulfill everything I freaking wanted. And that is a very rare case because I am very picky about things. So how can I do it? Okay, to put it simply, it has to do with August and her mom. And I hope this is not a spoiler because this is just kind of like telling you who August is. She and her mom live their whole lives enwrapped in a mystery. They're trying to solve a case that the police is not longer investigating that involves the mom's brother's disappearance. He disappeared in the 70s and she was a child back then or something, and she just has dedicated her life to discover what happened to her brother because she believes he wouldn't have left without ever saying goodbye or keeping communication with her. So that is their life. August grows up learning how to solve mysteries, how to research, how to think critically, but also how to be guarded, how to not trust anyone, how to always be in the move. And it's a very complicated relationship that they both have. They both love each other, but August goes to New York City because she wants to separate from her mom's obsession with this. With this premise, I need to say that I wish the mystery was solved in a different way. The build-up and the connections, the plot twists that we have are something that I enjoy, but the result, the ending, how it was all wrapped up together, I didn't like. I felt it was anticlimactic. I felt that it was bittersweet, and overall it wasn't well done in terms to the effect with the mother and August. Like, this is something that is key to the relationship. However, it wasn't well, for me, addressed, and it wasn't developed enough. Like, their whole relationship is based on solving this thing, and when it's solved, when they know what happens, it's kind of like, okay, that's it. This is the whole thing. I don't know. Like, there is a conversation with August and her mom, of course. I just felt it wasn't enough. I felt it was a little bit rushed. But not everything in life is perfect, and I'm sure Casey McQuiston had her reasons for it to be like this. I've talked to other people who read it and they were happy with the ending, so maybe it's a me problem. This is why I'm not going to deduct any of the 5-star. It is a 5-star, especially because for me a 5-star book is a book that touched me deeply, which this one did. It's a book that I want to reread eventually and over again, which this one did. It's a book that I want to own, that I want to recommend, that I want to give to people, which this one did. And just in general, very life-changing books that are very well written, that I enjoyed, that have great characters, great plot, great writing. This one covers all of it. So that is all for me. This is my review on One Last Stop. Believe me, I thought a lot about it because I want to do it since June. But I needed some time to think about it, to be objective, to think of what I wanted to say and how to say it without ruining it. There are certain books that I wish I could read again for the first time. And One Last Stop is definitely one of them because how I went blindly, because how it was such an amazing surprise for me. And I want that for you. I want you to be surprised and I want you to enjoy it. Maybe one other day I will tell you other books and authors that I wish I could read for the very first time again. We can make a list. The day that I'm recording this, I think it's 5 days before you watch it, I'm gonna start reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. So probably when you watch this, I will already be done with it, hopefully. And I'll do a review about it too. So subscribe if you want to see that. Check the bell for getting notifications. You know how YouTube works. Thanks for watching. Keep reading. And when you're not, follow me on all my social media, link down below, and drink water. I think I should give you that advice as well because I definitely need it for myself. Remember that I have a story graph and no one has befriended me there and I feel like a total loser now. It is all linked down below. I'll see you next week. Bye!